call the meeting to order. It is 6:01. Thank you all for coming. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. I do need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to announcements. I'd just like to welcome Bob Jones back amongst us. Hope your health is doing well. That's great to hear. Do we have any public input? No? Okay, we did receive a request. Is there a Wesley Seifert in the audience? No? Okay. We will go ahead and attach that to the agenda. Moving on to the consent agenda, we have the minutes of the previous meeting, minutes of subcommittee meetings for acceptance. Are there any comments, questions, concerns on the minutes from the previous meetings?
No, I do not.
No.
Okay. Do we have any comments on the subcommittee meetings, or are we willing to accept them as presented?
No, I'm fine as presented.
Okay.
I don't have any comments. Do you have any comments?
No, move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to old business, we have the superintendent follow-up. Is there any discussion that we need to have on the follow-up? Anything from anyone?
I don't have anything.
Bob, do you have any?
No, not for
Okay.
me.
All right. We have the financial follow-up. It was my understanding this wasn't going to come until
Yeah, I thought the
next meeting.
was all
That's
this.
the financial reports.
Yes, so the
No, I understand that.
the follow-up is from the last meeting,
Okay.
so at the next meeting, there won't be any financial follow-up because she's not presenting finances.
Okay.
So it'll be, oh, sorry.
I was planning on just giving you one every 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So you'll be up to date.
Perfect. Any questions, comments on what was followed up on from finance? Okay. The facilities update. Thank you very much for the significant amount of detail that went into this. It's greatly appreciated.
Good job, Dad.
Does there need to be direction from the board with regarding the asbestos tiles?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Because you had approved that full dollar amount, so we just wanna make sure you're okay with changing that, taking out the 150 for the abatement and just sealing it.
Okay. Which, and then I noticed that, I guess my assumption is, because the hope is that we go with just sealing the floor. I am cautioned though by putting a floating vinyl plank on the floor. I think it needs to be glued down, simply for the mere fact that if it's floating and water gets under there, there's going to be mold growth, which it can happen. So I'm not comfortable with the floating floor.
So, Tim Haig, Facilities Director. So there's two options.
Mhm.
First and foremost, the asbestos tiles are not a hazard. That's good news.
Okay.
Because it's not an airborne hazard, asbestos has to be airborne to create a hazard.
Right.
So as long as, and I've talked to the heads for Lakewood Middle School and for John Brown, don't grind it, don't cut into it,
Right.
don't create dust.
Right.
So yes, sealing is the best option to deal with it. So what was happening before, and I think some of the board members had gone through the school after it had been shampooed 20 times in a row, and moisture gets trapped in between the carpet and the tile itself, and it was warm water, and the glue will come apart.
Right.
And so it creates that waviness. Easiest thing to do is tear out the old carpet. Now, originally I had talked about possibly doing a vinyl plank flooring. There's no organic material in vinyl plank at all. It's 100% waterproof. So all plank flooring is floating. So it's not glued down, nailed down, or adhered. It needs to float for contraction and expansion of the building so that it doesn't pop. However, after looking at it a couple other times, with the glue being on the tile itself, we can seal over it, but a floating floor might not be the best option because we don't want to scrape or grind the glue off. So the other option would be a glue down carpet. And the carpet tiles seem to be the best bet because a lot of the other schools are using those, and they're great because you can, I don't know, what are they, 12 by 12 tiles, pop one out, pop one in. And you know, I think the high school had a stain in the commons, big pink stain. They were able to pop that out, put a new one in, so it's a great fix. So yeah, to your point, carpet might be the best, and glue it back down. The other thing with the issue that was creating the bubbling, the heaving, and everything with the glue is water extraction. So when you go to do carpet cleaning, and you go over it several times because they want to get a nice clean carpet, water gets left behind. And you go over it several times and a lot of water gets left behind. So the next thing is, how do you remove the water and eliminate the problem? So fans, air movers will move water, move vapor, heat will extract it, so a warmer climate, and a dehumidifier. So I've talked to the head custodian and the Chris back here, about how to contain an area, remove the moisture when we're cleaning the carpets, and eliminate the hazard for the future. So my opinion would be that when we conceal the asbestos tiles, like John Brown has asbestos tiles, and they're just, you know, a nice good coat over the top of them. They maintain them, doesn't hurt them at all. And even if that tile breaks, it can be removed and literally thrown in the garbage because you're not creating an airborne hazard. And then a carpet, like the tiles, could go back down like in the classroom. That would make everything look aesthetically pleasing, and we still have the sealed asbestos underneath it.
Okay.
And I could price both out as well.
Well, that sounds like a good plan to me.
It saves quite a bit of money.
It
for
would
the
save
district.
the district
$150,000.
$150,000 by not doing the abatement.
And it is industry standard.
It is an industry standard. I think I submitted a executive summary that illustrates a lot of that. And the, I forgot what I was thinking.
Saves money, industry standard. Executive summary.
Executive summary, yes. It is best practice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. So, sorry, my thought process. If you've ever, and I know, was it Spirit Lake that had abatement done recently? So the companies that do this, they're licensed, they're insured, they're specific for asbestos abatement. But I'll tell you my experience in the industry, and you can even talk to the guys that were part of that. Whenever you disturb asbestos, you're going to get airborne contaminants. You can seal with plastic, you can put HEPA filters in there, you can do everything possible, but it still creates airborne that will work its way through. You can never eliminate 100% of dust. So if we don't have to make dust, it's better for the district.
Right. Yeah, in your recommendation, you are willing to explore options with tile carpet and vinyl plank flooring. I do think that does need to be explored. And I do think if you do your research, you'll find vinyl plank flooring can be glued down. So we just need to measure the cost of both of those. I
Mhm.
mean, cause if they're both glue-based, that's not something we're gonna have to negotiate on. Either product would be glued down.
Right.
Okay. Well, what's the?
What would, have you looked into that, like, floor coating, like the spray on stuff?
Like,
It's pretty, like they have at the school, like in the locker room. Have you seen that?
it's kind of like a garage floor finish.
Yeah.
That you can spray over top.
You know?
Crock coating.
Yeah, like crop coating.
We can grind through that possibly.
Yeah, that.
I don't know, I just,
The only problem I would have with something like that, or even going down the concrete, putting something like that down, is it gives a little texture. It makes it a lot harder to clean.
yeah.
You're running your floor scrubbers and everything over it, and it's gonna tear up the floor scrubbers.
Do we have all the dehumidifiers and fans and everything that you're stating is
Not yet.
necessary? Not
That's
yet.
coming.
So we would need to purchase them?
Yes, so part of that savings of the 150,000 was gonna be, I think we had a recommendation to have a meeting about
Facilities.
a
workshop.
facilities workshop.
Right, but that
So-
150,000 was acquired by, cause in here you talk about the carpet, for Betty Kiefer, which was slated, but then we took that off so for this abatement, so that money would then go back. It's not extra money, I
Right.
don't think.
No, what I'm saying
So-
is it's saving in one area that could be used in another. So dehumidifiers.
Well, it was supposed to be used already at Betty Kiefer, and then we held off on the carpet replacement for Betty Kiefer to manage the abatement. So it
Gotcha.
would seem logical that that money would go back to Betty Kiefer's
We-
carpet replacement.
Chair Thompson, we
Mhm.
did pull from replacing the cafeteria floors for that instead of,
But we also had carpet that was supposed to be
we
replaced at
still have the
Garwood
full
as well.
funding for Betty Keeper. Garwood wasn't on the list, it was just the cafeteria floor for Garwood and Betty Keeper this year that we pulled for this particular project.
Okay.
So that full funding is still available for Betty Keeper and is on our to-do list.
And
so
Garwood
it's a-
as well.
Garwood was not, so that's where I think going back over what's available now in that budget and then going through the 18 million plus for facilities.
The 18 million, absolutely, but I guess what I don't understand is why the money that we pulled from the projects that we approved isn't going back to the projects we approved.
Yeah, we can do that. It wasn't just that we pulled money from, we pulled for the tennis courts as well, which is another topic of conversation.
Right.
So we can definitely bring that to you at the March 5th meeting.
Okay, perfect.
And the dehumidifiers are 1,500 apiece.
So
And
we
how
do
many
have,
do we need?
Probably just two.
we have building
Okay.
funds and emergency funds that we could utilize for that purchase.
So you're gonna use 2 dehumidifiers per room or per building?
Per room. So
Isn't
they have
that gonna be kind of,
a square footage area. I mean, if you were to do an entire school, you'd probably need 20 or 30 of them.
but it's my understanding that over the summertime, that is what has happened, is the whole school's done. Is that not accurate?
The whole school, the carpets are clean, yes, that is accurate. What I'm more concerned about is glue over asbestos. So if we're in a classroom, 2 dehumidifiers will pump that air out
Mhm.
and then go to the next classroom. And then if we do the hallway, we contain each hallway separately. So 2 of them could be used throughout the district all year round.
Would be opposed to purchasing more.
I would love to purchase more.
The other piece with having dehumidifiers on site would be if we do have a water intrusion event, we would be able to get our own dehumidifiers in there and not pay
Right.
a company in to do the water mitigation.
Right.
So in the long run, it would save us money.
Yeah,
We're
that-
just trying to be budget conscious right now.
No, I just know that there were multiple classrooms when we did look at the middle school. And I guess my concern is that if there's,
8 and a closet.
And a closet.
I just know that when we looked at the building, there were several rooms that were bubbled and lumpy, so to speak. So if we have 2 machines only,
We can only
How
do
does
one
that-
room at a time
okay,
for the cleaning process.
right.
Yeah.
And I have no idea how many other rooms within different buildings do the bubbling as well, and I know it happens, so that's why. Okay.
So
All right, is there any further conversation we wanna hold with facilities?
I don't have anything.
Thank you very much
Good.
for the detail
Thank
you
you. Thank
provided,
you.
much appreciated. Okay, moving on to new business, we have the LMS Parent Teacher Club bylaws.
So Mr. Ziegenfuss has been working with staff and parents to start a parent organization, much like a PTA or PTO at the elementary school level. Something that our parents at the middle school have really wanted for a long time, and so he rolled up his sleeves and got the work done. Our policy requires that new organizations be approved by the board, so we are just bringing the bylaws for your approval, so they can continue the work they're doing.
Is there any conversation that needs to be had on the bylaws?
Yeah, where did the bylaws come from? Are they just copy and paste from existing organizations or?
Matt, do you want to come up here, Matt, and answer questions?
Laura Spurway, I'm the principal assistant at Lakeland Middle School.
Not saying if it is principal in middle school.
So to answer for the bylaws, what was important to the group and to the teachers and administration there is that we did bylaws that were specific to what our school need was. We didn't want to partner with an outside organization right now
No, I
and
know
link
that,
to
but
those.
like, did you use existing within the district as a template?
So
and
we
then
worked and pulled
go
some
off of that?
existing examples, different things. We also met with financial institutes and contacted the state for the state organization qualification to say what are those basic requirements, and we wanted to start with simple, get those barriers started and have that process and double checks. So started really simplistic so that then we could build from there as we see what the needs are as we build the organization.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Is there any questions or anything? No?
No,
Any other questions?
no, I would move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. We have a budget hearing approval. It was my understanding that because our meetings were held on the second Tuesday, bumping them to the first, or Wednesday, bumping them to the first and the third throws off the date for the budget hearing. So there's a request to hold a meeting on June 11th to accommodate a budget hearing. Does anybody have any problems with that?
It can't be done the week before.
You're cutting my timeline really close with the levy. I have to have so much time to notice sorry, Jessica here, income CFO. I have to have at least 2 weeks to put in the paper the hearing dates. And so if we moved it back a week, I wouldn't have the full potential 2 weeks. It would give me about 2 days to make sure all the budgets were 100% perfect in order to publish.
You're so good, you did.
You're so funny. I do my best, but I like the little bit of extra time to make sure that I can give you a perfect product.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions regarding the need to hold this meeting?
I would be with Bob. That's a bad date for me, but I mean, as long as you have a quorum, that's all that matters.
Move to approve a special meeting on June 11th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. You're welcome. Moving on to board policy. We have policy 5740, which includes 5740P and 5740F. This took a significant amount of time. The policy didn't, but the procedures in the form did. This came due to the superintendent having legal counsel review our policy, and there was conflict between legal counsel's advices, but we reviewed the policy and brought it into alignment. Does anybody have any questions? on the policy, the procedures, or the form.
So, just to clarify, you did have legal review,
We did, yes.
made some adjustments.
Mhm.
Was there any follow-up with legal review?
No, there was not.
Okay.
Would you like to have follow-up from legal?
Well, not knowing exactly what you changed, you know, it's hard to say. I mean, if it was relatively minor, I wouldn't think that would be necessary, but.
Well, what it was, I'm trying to remember on the original policy.
We had to be sure that, the first cut wasn't based strictly on category, status, and seniority, and so
Yeah.
there was just, that was a minor tweak. I think the bigger tweak was in the procedure part that attached to the policy with regard to how to make those, collect those pools of teachers and start to score them.
And then the form was, we had, the old form was part of the procedure, and we wanted to take it out and make its own thing.
That's fine.
And then, but the form that we had was quite convoluted. So, one of the Lakeland High School teachers drafted a really cool form, and then Brooke pulled the form from Coeur d'Alene, and so we sort of morphed the two of them and created a point value system that seemed to be
Look
appropriate. Yeah.
And we used, the one that Brooke brought was actually an updated one because Coeur d'Alene had to use their form when they declared their financial emergency prior to their levy passing. There were some things that were problematic in the original one, so they made some tweaks, and it's actually going to their board, I think, next month for approval. But they shared that with us, so that was the draft that we used.
Lynn Pass, the assistant, a lot of the narrative was spent on the procedures, and when we originally reached out, so we've reached out to multiple attorneys, they kind of gave us guidance on the flow for the due process piece. So that's where we spent a ton of time of really honoring, and we just crafted the language a little bit better. She gave us a lot of kind of bullet points or whatever, so I feel like we really tried to honor her guidance, but that's where we spent most of the time was on the language, following her procedure, so we gave that due process piece.
And when I say we spent a significant amount of time,
I'm sure.
I think it was 8 to 10 weeks. It was, I mean, plus we had the holidays in between, so, you know. Does anybody have any input, comments or concerns on any of the documents?
No.
I'm sure you had some staff, other than district staff involved.
What do you mean by staff?
Teachers.
Oh yeah, the LEA was there, administrators were there, teaching staff was there. There was quite
15 to 20 on a regular basis.
Yeah, it was crowded. It was enjoyable. I encouraged everybody to keep coming back. They probably won't, but you know.
It was one of our teachers who drafted the form that Michelle was talking about,
Yeah.
so they definitely had a lot of input.
Okay, so there's a comfort level all around.
Yes, I mean, nobody wants to have to use this, obviously, but they feel like it's fair, and it is written in a way that we're honoring our teachers. So.
The fact that so many people were involved in the process, I am going to make a motion to approve as
Second.
presented.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the Avista Utilities easement request. Does anybody have any conversation they'd like to have on this?
I have a question. Oh, are you gonna present first, or just
Nope, I
field
take
questions?
questions.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out, it appears that the easement would be 25 feet adjacent to our property line. Is that correct?
Based on the map that I was presented by Avista, yes.
And then there's a provision in the easement that we can't build anything anywhere on that easement. including fences, which I found problematic.
I'd be happy to follow up with a Vista related to the fences.
I mean, we're in the school business, we know that we have to go
We have to
fences
fence,
around
yeah.
our schools, and so we need to protect that particular element.
The reason a Vista was approaching us regarding building along that property line or bringing it in is that's an undeveloped property line right now versus what is in between NIC and K-Tech. It would cost quite a bit more for them to come in and bore through and go under all the asphalt and concrete there to bring it in. So they were approaching us first. I'd be happy to follow up with them to make sure that we would be able to build a fence for school safety purposes down the road and see how that would adjust us.
Obviously, you can't build it directly over the line.
Right.
But, if we can build on the property line, and then they have 25 feet adjacent to that to do whatever they're gonna do, that seems more than adequate.
I can definitely follow up on that.
Is 25 feet typical easement? That seems like a lot.
30 usually.
It's
For a gas line, it's probably more than like a water or sewer line.
Yeah, it's more than the ordinary utilities, but lot lines in town only have 5 feet on either side of the lot line, so it's required. But, this is a little different. It's a 2-inch line, feeder line, and, some of those kind of things.
I will follow up with the Vista and then try to bring this back at the February 19th meeting. Lisa will have to field questions on that date.
This is not time sensitive, obviously.
It is for them, for K-Tech. They currently have non-functional geothermal boilers. They were put in and were a little bit too cold. The aquifer water that they're pulling for is a degree too cold, so the geothermal boilers are not working correctly. They're not keeping the building warm enough.
They've never worked correctly.
So they're wanting to bring gas in to convert to gas instead of using the geothermal so that the building's heated consistently. So for them, it is a priority. For us, it's I'll bring it back to you at the next meeting.
Thank you.
I didn't notice any recommendation. There was recommendations on everything else that was brought to us, but this one.
There is a recommendation that
Where
we
is it?
approve on the board's
It's on the
action
very-
item request.
Oh, it's right
On
there.
the memo.
Yeah. I noticed that.
Right there.
Okay.
Then I would move we table the Avista Utilities easement request until further information can be provided.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Moving on to supplemental curriculum.
To give you guys some context, the first, I think, 7 or 8 websites are for the ALP's challenge, so it's not for use in the classroom outside of ALP and GATE. It's they're prepping for a specific event outside of school. So because they were review some of that while they're in school, we wanted to get approval on that. The other piece is I was asked sometime last year to really look at all of our books that we read in the classroom. Our novel sets are parent approved, and so just checking in with how many of our books have been opted out. And at this point, I checked in with the principals today. I did at the very beginning of the school year, like in October. So far we've only had one book that we've had a family opt out of specific to our novel set. So just to give you some context specific to the bottom of the list is novel sets, but the very top specific to the science websites are it's an event. It's a science bowl for IDX. And so our GATE and ALP students will be participating, and it's specific to agriculture science.
It would be really helpful if we knew what this was going to be costing the district on these websites.
My understanding is they're all free.
They're all free. Okay.
There's no cost.
Well, I just bring that up because I know there have been resources from Teachers Pay Teachers, and I do know those costs.
Right.
So just trying to make sure that if there is a cost involved.
Okay, I'll include that
Yeah,
for sure.
that would be great. Any comments or conversations from the board on any of the books?
Nope.
And these are all books that we currently have, correct? Okay.
I'm just cycling through the list. I still have quite a few, but I'm not trying to overwhelm you guys for the
Or the
supplemental-
reviewers.
The reviewers, exactly.
I appreciate that. I move to approve the list as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We have the North Idaho College MOU.
So, the changes to the MOU, CFO Grantham and I met with President Swain from NIC, as well as some members of the faculty who are working with dual credit. And part of their accreditation requirements is to see an increase in enrollment at North Idaho College. And one of the ways that they're doing that is to work more closely with school districts if we can increase our dual credit enrollment, that counts for them. And so they've been looking at ways to help our districts, recognizing that when we have dual credit teachers on campus, it takes away from other classes that could be offered. So the change really is the dollars will still come in from NIC for the stipends to the dual credit teachers, but in addition to that, each semester there will be a second check that will come to us from North Idaho College, specifically to help pay for some of the salary for the staff who are teaching those classes, recognizing that they're not teaching our classes all day long. So for this semester, normally I would bring this to you in the summer to be ready, or spring to be ready for fall, but they're willing to start now. So for this semester, based on the classes that we're slated to teach, it would be $19,000 that would come to the district to help with just the cost of staffing.
Superintendent Arnold, can
Yes,
I add to that? So, they're giving us funding for the teacher stipends, but this agreement will give us facility dollars. It's a facility fee, so it's not necessarily meant to be used for compensation. It's to help offset our costs of running that program, used as we see fit. It's not required to be used for teacher compensation. So
I wasn't saying compensation.
Okay.
It's helping to offset our costs.
Right.
For the staff, yeah. And they did write it in as facilities, but they're not intending it to be a facility use fee. It's just, that's how they're bringing the money to us. But originally when we talked, they wanted to be able to pay, if a teacher was spending half of their day teaching dual credit classes, they wanted to be able to give us 50% of that person's salary and benefits. They weren't able to give us that much. It doesn't work in their budget, so this is what they're doing. But it still helps us. So.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that is happening with North Idaho College is they're actually bringing some 4-year degree programs from U of I to be on the North Idaho campus, North Idaho College campus. And so they've created pathways within their using their GEM courses, which is what you have to take to get your AA or AS. They've created pathways that we can give to our counselors, and so if we have a lot of kids on our campus who are going into health sciences, there are courses that we could teach on our campus, and so it helps us be a little bit more customer friendly when we're looking at our students and what our students need, and then working with our staff to get approved IMC to teach.
that was the other thing. It's been hard for some of our teachers to become an NIC instructor for these dual credit classes. If they're currently teaching a dual credit class with another college or university, they're willing to grandfather them in. So we'll have more of our teachers eligible to teach these NIC dual credit classes, so it's a benefit to our teachers as well. So we'll be able to offer more, which is their hope, by grandfathering them in, to allow us to offer more NIC classes and keeping our students local if they so wish.
Okay.
I definitely think it's a win-win. Win for the district, a win for the college, and definitely a win for our kids.
Kids, yeah. Move to approve the MOU with NSC.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Moving on to the
Thank you.
Moving on to the STEM Charter MOU.
So we found out the day that we had all that fog and our bus turned and tried to go over the swale into the bank instead of the road, that we transport STEM kids to competitions when it works for us. We invoice them, they pay us, so they do pay for those services. So when I talked to Scott Thompson, who is the executive director for North Idaho STEM, I just let him know that the way we do business is if we're going to do a service like that, there's an MOU that needs to be in place. So he sent me kind of a draft of an MOU, which is what is in front of you. He had a lot of background information and kind of non-essential language in there that I struck that we can keep in there if you want it to be in there. But the recommendation would be, since we've been doing it since Dr. Rannells was the superintendent in the district, so quite a while, that we continue for this year so we don't leave them high and dry. And then I did let him know that depending on what happens with our levy and what direction we're going, we may need to relook at that. But they pay for the services and they only get them if we have a bus and a driver available.
What is it that they pay? Because it's not part of this MOU.
I wasn't on this.
We will add that.
Jessica Green, CFO. When talking with him, we will be charging them for our miles and our bus driver compensation. So they'll be fully charged for our true cost of running that route for them, just like we would if it was a charter. It's essentially a charter to another district is what we're doing. So we'll fully recoup our entire cost on it. They never intended to not pay the full amount. Again, this is one of those things that when you have transition in leadership and this was a practice that's been happening that we weren't aware of, as Elisa had alluded to. So we will ensure that going forward that everything that is the cost related to that trip is billed back to STEM Charter.
So were they not being invoiced at all?
They were
previously?
being invoiced, yes, and we have that documentation. I'll make sure it's attached to the next meeting to show the history of the invoicing. Looking at it, we were just invoicing based on our state mileage rate, which doesn't fully pull in the full amount of the bus driver compensation. So going forward, we'll charge them the state mileage rate to help cover the cost of the depreciation on the bus plus the fuel associated with the bus. But we will also be pulling out exactly the salary and benefits related to that bus driver for taking that trip as well.
So it'll be budget neutral for us. Do you want us to put specific language in the MOU with regard to, at least for this school year, what that charge will look like?
Well, there should be language in it so that the district understands what it's supposed to be collecting and they understand what they're going to be charged.
Okay.
Where has this funding been going?
Into the transportation department, so it offsets the cost of the transportation department. You'll see it on the general fund on the monthly financials. You'll see transportation, you'll see the state transportation revenue line item, and then you'll see a transportation transfer. Those are where all the non-reimbursable trips that our schools go on, and then if we have something like the STEM Charter MOU, that'll go into that line item, and then it offsets the total cost of transportation.
Okay.
You can tell I'm visual as I'm directing you to something that's in the air in my head.
Thank you. So you're going to present to us at the next meeting, or at least have it attached to the agenda, showing us what we've collected.
Yeah, I can put it in our in the financial follow-up as one of the reports in there that just shows what we've done over the last fiscal year to date.
Okay,
So,
that would be great.
yeah.
I would move that we table the STEM charter MOU until additional language is provided to accommodate the financial portion of the agreement.
To the next regular meeting.
To the next regular meeting, yes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the Idaho Home Learning Academy MOU.
So I had a parent reach out to me, she has 2 children, 2 students at Lakeland High School, and there are certain classes that they wanted to be able to take, and they can take them online through this Idaho Home Learning Academy, and in order for them to be able to do that, there has to be an MOU in place, and so this is their standard MOU that they submit to all schools.
On one of these students, it has the classes, but the other one doesn't. Is that necessary to?
Which,
The second.
The second
Bottom.
student.
Yeah. There's no course title.
I didn't catch that, so I did not ask Mom what the course was, but
And this would be for next,
I'm assuming so, but,
cause it says beginning of first
right.
semester to end of first semester.
Right,
The one
we
stated.
just got this, so I'm assuming so, but it also could be that they took it and then realized, oh, we don't have an MOU with Lakeland, and so we're getting it after the fact.
One's dated October, the other one's dated November. I suppose it would be good to have some understanding on that, if this is for next year, or if it's for this year retro.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause
There are
it doesn't give the year, it just says semester,
Right.
which semester, rather than
First
an
semester.
actual date.
Beginning of first semester to the end of first semester, I'm assuming that's next year. Is there a reason why the students are not named?
We redacted the names just because it's a public document. That was the direction that we were given.
I would favor approving an MOU that doesn't specify who it's for. I mean, there's nothing nefarious going on here, there's
Right.
nothing, disciplinary vein or anything of that sort.
Trustee Jones, I'm sorry. I do believe, because Maria Parker had mentioned that the student names were in the MOU, they are there. But because this is a public document, the students' names were redacted for their privacy.
Did they request that? Did they request their names be redacted?
No. No, the parent didn't, no.
I'm not sure what we're protecting.
I'll move to table this until the next board meeting and we have more information.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving into our discussion items, we have a levy update. Shall we have discussion on the levy update?
I will just, at each meeting, provide a document like this for you so you can see what work has been done. And then, Rebecca has been frantically making phone calls, trying to schedule events so that we can get those dates on your calendars, for potential town hall meetings. She made contact today with the Hauser Lake Fire Department, so we can schedule a meeting there for the Hauser Lake area. So once we have all of those dates, we have a spreadsheet that has like over 80 different events that we're working to schedule, so. We will bring that forward, and then, the, first item on there, we have received $20,000 in donations, to, which will allow us to work with Target River Marketing. They do not run a levy campaign, it's a community trust building campaign, and so, they will create, videos about the great things that happen in the Lakeland School District, that will be on streaming services, streaming platforms within our school district. So if somebody's at home watching a Netflix show, instead of seeing a Walmart ad, it would be an advertisement about the Lakeland School District. They'll see ads that will pop up in their Facebook feeds, and but it's just kind of one more way to reach our community and provide information about the district, but at no point in time will there be any discussion about the levy. It will just be, it's really about building trust with the community, so. And that's been, all of the dollars are donated. So there will be no taxpayer dollars being used.
Those dollars are handled by the foundation?
Yeah. At Lakeland Education Foundation.
Put your best foot forward.
Yep. We had somebody who came to me and just provided this idea, and it's something we've not tried before, but we consistently hear from our community that they don't hear from us, so this was a way to try to, one more avenue, I guess, to get in front of people, so.
All right. Any further discussion on the update for the levy?
No, I just would make sure that we are focusing efforts beyond just our school.
Oh, we are.
What reaches our parents and our grandparents, we need to make sure that we're reaching, focusing efforts mostly on those individuals that don't have that student connection to our district.
That's why we have a list of 80-some meetings that we're scheduling.
Good.
In addition to those 80 meetings that we're scheduling, which are larger group meetings, I am also working on getting myself invited to homes to meet with people in their homes, with neighbors and friends who might have questions or don't understand the levy system, and just to be able to sit and talk to people. So I've got a couple that we're getting scheduled, and I tried really hard to do that before every meeting I went to. I asked people if they'd be willing to host, and I didn't get anybody to take me up on that, but I do have 2 people so far. So I'm hoping once word gets out that we're doing that maybe more people will be interested in reaching out.
So it appears that every single day until the levy you're going to be hosting meetings?
Pretty much. At some point.
Okay.
Just whatever it takes. I just want people to feel like they know they have the information, they know what we're doing, and they have had their answers, or their questions answered.
Okay. Any other discussion on the levy?
No.
Okay. Moving on to the 4-day school week.
So this is something that we've been talking about. I just, as we move forward, even with the levy passing, we are going to have to find additional cost-saving measures going into next year. We've been in a situation where we've had deficit spending because we're building a budget that we know is eating into our fund balance. So, I'm just looking at as many ways as I can and bringing them to the board for you to kind of discuss and decide what you are interested in and what you're not. But we will have to, look at ways to save money next year even with the levy passing, and so this is, something we've talked about. I just am looking for some direction from the board with regard to this particular topic. Next year, I'm fairly certain that K-Tech will be a 4-day school week, and so that causes us a little bit of a challenge. It's not something insurmountable, but if K-Tech doesn't have school on Fridays, then our kids who are at K-Tech will have 2 or 3 periods, classes that they won't have because they only go Monday through Thursday, but our kids are 5 days a week, so figuring out what to do with those kids on Friday for their K-Tech part of their day will be a little bit of a challenge. K-Tech, by going to 4 days, since Coeur d'Alene is a 4.5 day, and they really don't want their kids going to K-Tech on Fridays, and then Post Falls is no school on Friday. It made sense for K-Tech to, when 2 of the 3 districts are out, then everybody's out, is kind of how that works. And so by doing that, the reason it's K-Tech is really wanting to move in that direction is with the extended day, it allows them to do 3 blocks during the day instead of just 2, which allows more kids to participate in the courses. The director feels like we could eliminate the waiting list that we have for our programs by doing that. So it's a benefit for K-Tech. So I'm just looking for some feedback from the board, and I'll continue to bring other ideas forward as we find those.
I think the start time for the high school is quite early. I think it would be better to add a half hour at the end of the day and move the start time up 6:20 a.m. start time.
For a 0 hour?
Yeah.
That's what it's pretty close to what we're doing now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so right now it's 6:30.
We don't have it, well, if it is, there's 6:30.
So it stays.
The levy is happening at 6:30.
So how does that work? Then it would stay the same because they're longer, or?
We added time at the end of the day instead of at the beginning of the day because they're already starting so early. So right now the high schools get out at 2:10. They'd get out at 3 o'clock.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I am curious, because this board is asked to go to single routing, and we were told that we couldn't. We had to buy 12 more buses. There's all these problems to go to single routing. But if we go to a 4-day school week, your recommendation is to go to single routing. So then are we looking at buying 12 more buses to accommodate a 4-day school week?
Well, I guess what I'm asking from the board is this something that you're really wanting us to pursue, because there are lots of different ways to do that, and we would need to start really rolling up our sleeves and figuring out what it looks like for transportation.
So you don't know if we would need 12 more buses to go to a single route for a 4-day school week?
That's what has been suggested, but that's based on kind of a first blush look at it. We would need to really dig in and figure all of that out, so.
I guess, from my point of view, I'm only one, but I have no interest in a 4-day week. All the reasons that I hear for going to a 4-day week really have very little to do with what's good for kids. The reasons that are saving dollars, the reasons for trying to retain teachers or other kinds of things are not, in my mind, justification to make that drastic move. So I have no interest in it whatsoever.
Well, I know that when we surveyed the public, just to get an understanding of what people are considering, not because we were moving in that direction. It was just, what does the public want? It came back almost 50-50 that the parents were in support and staff was not.
Yeah, I think,
So-
correct me if I'm wrong, but if you look deeply into that survey, a lot of those responses were from students. And-
All I have is the information that's
Yeah.
provided to us. I don't have the backdoor look, so.
Right,
Yeah, we didn't have that information. We just had a split.
Yeah, we were just given percentages. Did you get to look at the back doors? Is that how you knew there were students?
No,
Okay.
I base that judgment on the way the responses were written.
Okay, fair enough.
You know, the other thing that's problematic from a parent standpoint is, you know, if you've got 2 or 3 little kids and you work 5 days a week, what do you do with those 2 or 3 little kids on Friday? We don't have a lot of daycare service available in the school district, so that's gonna be an issue for parents to deal with. In my mind, it creates more problems than it cures.
Well, from what I've understood, the Post Falls communities have adapted quite well. I don't know that that's the right answer, but from the parents that I work with, everybody's just adapted to it. So it is a transition. Nobody likes change at all, ever.
Well, they have a little more consolidated community than what we do. We're spread all over half acres out here.
Do you know how many districts in the state are at 4 days now?
It's a significant.
119 out of 176.
Yeah, I mean, the trend nationally is 4 days. I mean, everybody, it's sort of like when we went from the junior high to middle of school kind of model, and now the 4-day.
Yeah, when Post Falls started their first year, their intention was that they would have their buildings open on Fridays and provide paras and basically run their before and after school care in the buildings. And they had it at all schools. By semester, they had pared that back, and I think they have maybe 2 schools where they're running that, and they don't have very many kids in either school because the parents have found alternatives. I do think that they have a lot of high school students who are making money on Fridays, babysitting, watching kids, but they have figured it out. But their community looks different than ours.
Right.
So as a superintendent of public education, changed her perspective? Because I remember when this was first a conversation, you said that there was going to be basically a penalty for schools that went to 4 days, so you were
that's
advising
gone.
against it.
Yep, they took that away.
Okay.
When they really started looking at student achievement scores, they're not seeing that there is a difference between a 5-day and a 4-day school week with regards to student achievement. Actually, Post Falls last year outscored us on our scores for the first time in a long time. Probably because there was a concerted effort, because they wanted to make sure that they were still doing right by kids, but they spent a lot of time preparing all of their instructional calendars for the new school year, making sure that all the standards were covered, so they went into the year ready to teach kids.
Would we be able to utilize Fridays for instead of pulling teachers out of classes to have to do substitutes because we need to hold meetings?
Yes.
Would we be able to utilize those on Fridays to eliminate the substitute pay that we're paying?
Yep. Post Falls, the way their schedule is this year, 2 of the Fridays are professional development collaboration days for staff, and then the other 2 are non-contract days.
Okay.
And in that draft schedule that is provided for you, I think I put it in the recommendation, but the decision was made to not put in additional time for snow days, so if we were to have a snow day, the expectation would be that we'd make that day up on the following Friday.
Right.
So you get a full day of instruction instead of throwing 5 minutes a day at it over the course of time, which instructionally makes more sense.
And then if there's a federal holiday on a Monday, then school is held on Friday?
We didn't put that in there because Post Falls did that their first year, and they actually saw a decrease in their ADA, average
Okay.
daily attendance, at the secondary level because the kids got very used to not being at school on Fridays. So they decided this year if there's a holiday, it's a 3-day week, and their ADA is up. So they had to add some time to their day, and I think they actually added a couple of days on the calendar to make that all work.
What's Post Mall saving? Do you know?
I think the last time I talked to Dina, they were close to $1 million in just costs savings. I think like 800,000. Kellogg is seeing significant savings on utility costs, but they're also seeing an increase in their ADA, so that generates more revenue from the state also. So there's a cost savings and then also a potential to increase our revenue.
Last time I looked, we were running close to 95% ADA. Is that right?
94, I think, is what we've been. Yep.
You get 95%, you're not gonna get any better than that. I mean, you may in some individual weeks or one school to another when, you know, somebody has a epidemic of colds or, you know, that impacts it. But overall, district-wide, if you can reach 95%, you're there.
Mm-hmm. One of the things Dina shared was that one of the reasons they feel like they're seeing a little bit of increased ADA is parents have been good about trying to schedule dentist appointments, doctor's appointments for kids on Fridays instead of pulling kids out of school to do those kinds of things. So because most of dentists, for sure, a lot of them close, they don't take appointments after 3 or 4, and so kids have to get pulled out of school to go to those appointments. So we don't have, obviously we're not making any decisions tonight, but if you want more information, we can, Jessica Grantham and Dr. Pesley and I can work with Jessica Daynor to get to bring to you, this is what it would look like for transportation if we went to single routing. So you have a more full picture of what this all looks like.
That's probably a good idea. Make it as complete as possible.
If all 5 of you were opposed to the idea, I just didn't want to put that energy in, so.
Well, we understand where Trustee Jones is. What about the rest of the trustees?
I don't like it.
I think we have to look at all of our options. I think the more information we have, the better informed decision we can make.
I would agree with that. I think if we show the community that we're trying to reduce district costs, that is more favorable when you're trying to get a levy passed. But I don't know how the community is going to feel about a 4-day school week. I mean, it was a few years ago that we surveyed them, so attitudes could have shifted. I don't know.
Yeah, I just really don't know what it does to the families in our district.
I can send it to a Sky Alert out to all of our parents and just ask the very simple question: do you support 4-day school week? Yes or no? And and I can bring that back to you and we can get a little bit of a sense of
Yeah,
what the
that would be
committee's
smart.
looking for.
Yep.
Okay.
Chair Thompson, can I clarify the number I gave you?
Your number?
Yep, it's 76 out of 119.
I was like, where do you get
Yeah,
that?
I know,
How did you get so
I
many
have my
numbers?
numbers backwards, so it's 76 out of 119 that are at a 4-day school week.
Okay,
So, you can quote me on that one, I double checked it.
not a problem. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
So I will send that out to parents and have that information to bring to you. I'll do it tomorrow, I'll send it out so I can bring it February 19th, and then if we have a large percentage of parents who say, please don't do this, then we
Right.
go a different direction. So.
Any further discussion on the 4-day school week?
I don't have
No.
any.
I don't. Alright. Moving on to the board member inclusion for Lakeland Education Foundation.
So we've historically had a board member participate on that board. Ramona's done it for the last 3 years for us, and so we just wanted to see if there was anybody on the board who her term's up. So is there anybody on the board who wants to step into that? Ramona wants to continue, but
I'm trying to remember, I should, because I wrote most of the stuff, but I was thinking that the bylaws of the foundation suggested that vice chair of the board be the representative. If not that person, then probably the vice chair should designate someone else. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think that's the way it's set up.
that's not what was stated at the meeting. It just the board member didn't specify. So I don't know if the bylaws changed or if she's just reading part of it. Yeah.
I stepped into it because we didn't have any representation at all. There was nobody, so I said, well, I'll do it for a while.
Good for you.
So I did it. Yeah, I raised a lot of money. That was the first year they ever had any, which I was shocked, any whatever level it was, the highest level sponsorship. And I think I brought in 4 or 5 that year. Mended the relationship between the LAF and the golf course that changed hands out in Blanchard. I'm bringing a blank. Fixed that. Stone Ridge, yep. And also amended the relationship with LAF and the new owner in Bayview. I don't know where it went from that. I attempted to set up a multi-year, not a grant, but sorry, my brain is really tired. Scholarship fund through our business, but I wasn't taken up on that. I had set aside, we've since moved the money, but yeah, so it was okay, but I guess if somebody else wants to do it for a while, that would be fine.
I'll go if no one else is interested.
Randy or
Dave
Dave?
might be interested.
Oh, is it just one meeting? I don't
No,
care.
there's 4.
Four?
Yeah.
For a year.
For a
For a
year.
year.
For a year.
And the golf
And then the
tournament.
And you get to golf. In the golf
Yeah.
tournament.
I'll be drinking beer.
So careful with your golf cart. You wanna do it?
I don't care, I'll do it.
Are you gonna with Dave doing it, or do you wanna do it?
Oh, more power to Dave.
Alrighty. Dave's it.
Okay, thank
That's
you,
it.
Dave.
Yes, thank you, Dave. Alright, then we have the Rathdrum Chamber State of the Community Address.
That is coming up on February 20th.
Luncheon.
I will be presenting as usual for this event. We have 4 free 4 tickets, comp tickets, I guess. And so just wondering if any of the trustees would like to attend.
I think I already have it.
It's 11:30 to 1. At
I can make
Sherman's.
it.
I can make it.
I'll go.
I have to check my other calendar to see if I'm not sure.
Okay.
So does Bob see,
Bob gets he's on the board.
so it would just be us four
Yeah,
anyways?
I've already
Okay.
bought my tickets. So.
Okay,
Tentatively.
yeah,
I'll
I
do
would be
it.
tentative, I have to check my,
So we need to make sure that we post a quorum for that day.
Yes, please. And then, moving on to public input, I was thinking that it may be beneficial for us to identify on the agenda as public input, how long we're going to take public input. It's gonna be 30 minutes, an hour, indefinite, whatnot. We don't have anything listed. I have checked others. They do have a time bracket listed, but I didn't just wanna make the change without board input. So I'm bringing it to you folks for input so that we can update, if it is the board's choosing to specify that how long we're gonna be taking public input.
So it would be 3 minutes per individual, not to exceed a total of.
Right. So, I mean, if there's 1,000 people, 3 minutes is quite a long time. So, if we just said public input for up to an hour, I mean, cause we don't have to hold public input, but we do.
Yeah.
So
No,
I think
I think it's appropriate that we do, and I think an hour is long enough.
okay.
But the 3 minute limit, I think is appropriate, otherwise somebody's gonna filibuster.
Well, the policy states it's 3 minutes per person.
Right.
But we've never, adhered to a, time parameter for public
Totally.
input.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it would be beneficial for us to do that so that it doesn't appear that we're just cutting off public input because we're tired of it during our meeting, so.
I think an hour is appropriate.
Okay.
That's
I think
fine.
so.
An
I
hour?
agree, yeah,
Hour.
that's
Okay,
fine.
perfect. So could you please make a note, for Maria? To update the agendas to include, that, and I can talk to her about it at the next agenda planning. And then I put school boundaries on here because we've been getting emails that apparently Garwood's boundaries are changing, and we didn't know about that, so just would like some input on that.
Yeah, Garwood's tennis boundaries are not changing, so I came to the board, in November, I believe, and just requested permission to look at boundaries because of everything that's going on with the levy. And the board approved that, and so we've been meeting, Long Range Planning Committee has been meeting, and we actually, the plan was just to kind of look at the whole district and start to determine if we have to make changes depending on the outcome of the May meeting, to have some plans for that. And so, and then just recognizing that almost all of our growth is in the Garwood zone. So are there places where it makes sense to, before the kids even show up, to identify that this part we're going to shift to a different school's attendance zone. So for example, that Hayden Canyon is all starting to be built out. So the question in my mind was, does it make more sense to pick those kids up and just go up 95 to Athol and maybe shift Athol's boundaries a little bit to remedy some of the growth for Garwood. So that was the conversation. But at one of our meetings, we had a proposal to more fully utilize Twin Lakes Elementary, reduce the Garwood numbers, and we promised parents that if we were going to have any conversation about any kind of zone issues that we would involve parents. So the next meeting I reached out and just invited all of them to come, and we just sat down and looked at the maps together. And right away the parents didn't agree with what had been proposed. That wasn't my proposal, but, and so, then I started seeing on social media some of the frenzy, and actually had a conversation with one mom at the meeting saying that there were lots of parents who didn't come because they had seen what the proposal was and assumed that either we were just doing it and they didn't get to have input, or it didn't pertain to me because I don't live there, so I don't need to come. So I did send out a follow-up so everybody knows that we're not looking to make changes right now. We're just really looking at the whole district as a whole, but Garwood, we're going to have to do something at some point, but right now we don't. None of our buildings are at maximum functional capacity. It really was just more about getting Garwood closer to where everybody else is and getting Twin Lakes up, because their enrollment is lower now because we moved some kids, and then their new developments didn't come with children, so we didn't see the increase there that we thought we would. So does that answer your question?
What I hear you saying is right now there's not a school boundary change that's going to be expected?
No.
Okay.
No. But we are looking at like a 5-year plan for the district. What is,
okay,
when we're looking, there are a couple of places that we are asking the committee to look at where, and it's more up in the AFL zone, where our buses have to drive quite a distance out of the way and into another school zone to get to a point where the bus can turn around to come back and go to the school. So that was one of the things that we were starting to look at. So
I recall that after the levy failed with everything that was going on in trying to figure out costs, I specifically said I think that the facilities or transportation director needs to look at the boundaries to see if there's ways to modify the boundaries to effectuate better busing routes.
and
So that to me was the direction from the board. So I was just kind of shocked when I started getting emails from parents aflutter about now we're changing Garwood again, and we plucked a community out of the middle of a housing development and said you get to go here but everybody else gets to go there, and why are we not readdressing that? So it was just a little I was a little cautioned by the whole thing because I didn't know what was going on, so that's
And
why
the
I wanted
transportation
it.
director has been involved in the long-range planning committee meetings, just so you're aware that
Oh, good.
that she has been
That's great.
very instrumental in answering a lot of questions and talking about those routes. So
Good.
And that was actually at the meeting, that was what I told when we had all of our Garwood parents about that our task is to make sure that we're running our transportation department as efficiently and cost effectively as we can. And so as we're looking at ways to minimize costs, if there are ways where we can maybe tweak something, that's part of our job, what we're doing right now. So
Okay.
So where is this at that we're driving into another, specifically another, school district to turn around?
not a district,
Oh,
attendance zone.
oh,
So our buses are driving, they have to drive quite a way away from where they're trying to go to get to the point where they can turn around and go back.
they can't just U-turn in the middle of the highway, so they have to go down to where there's a
3.5.
road wide enough for them to go maybe down and then on another street to come back up to go across. So
Yeah.
it's situations like that where, and it's really like there's one, just the one that pops into my head is it goes from Athol, they're needing to go to Athol Elementary and they have to go into the Spirit Lake zone to turn around to get going back to the Athol zone.
Yeah, so we were just looking at, is there a different way to do that? And then the proposal was made, and again, I just one voice, so I didn't want to say, no, we're not doing that. We brought the parents in to let them have a voice.
Alright.
so if you did change boundaries, you would bring it to the board for approval, or you would just do it? Cause that's what happened last time. I don't know that did we approve that one last time?
We approved it.
Did we?
did.
Cause I think I missed that one.
Yeah, I would never make that decision. That's not a superintendent
Yeah.
decision, that's a board decision.
Well, I didn't think so, but you know, the emails were,
Right. Yeah, but,
You know, in all due respect, and I understand why some of this discussion is happening, but it's ill-timed in my mind, because we've put the community through enough trauma in the last 2 or 3 months that they don't need any more. And so, I would suggest you kind of back burner that for the time being.
yeah, my approach, my plan for this is that we're looking, it's a 5-year plan, and we're looking at all the growth in Garwood zone, and again, figuring out how to move families who haven't even moved here yet, and assign them to a school that makes sense with transportation.
Well, but that's speculation. If you're talking about families who haven't even moved here yet, we're talking about speculation.
Right, but it's creating like a 5-year plan, looking at how that's.
Yeah, and I understand, you know, the purpose for it. I just think that now's not the exact time to be doing it.
Okay, well, I will happily scratch
that's one
those
of- you know,
meetings
I
off
really
of my
wanna find
calendar.
it. I really want it, so.
Because to Michelle's point earlier, we have 80 meetings that we're scheduling, between more than 80.
So are you scratching long-range planning, or are you scratching the school boundary issue?
Well, at this point, we're definitely not talking about school boundaries, but what we do need to do at some point is look at the district as a whole and make sure that our transportation routes are efficient and the most cost effective. But that does potentially lead to conversations about making changes. And so if we're not wanting to make changes right now, then
I guess I'm just trying to understand, are you scrapping the long-range planning committee meetings, or the bus route for schools? Because I don't know what we're now
right.
gonna
So
call
right
it.
now, long range planning, because we're not looking at building a building or doing any of that. So there isn't an important need right now for the committee to be meeting if we're not looking
Okay,
at
so
a
you're scrapping
5-year plan.
long-range planning.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know that that's a good idea. I really don't think that's a good idea. We need to put a plan in place and quit working at a situation where, oh my gosh, we need to create a plan right now because this is going to happen. That's not long range planning. We need to be working constantly on a long range plan that looks beyond this levy and not just say, okay, we're in this cram right now and we need to figure out what we need to do for this year, next year, and maybe the year after. No, we need to be looking down the road and make a plan. So I don't think getting rid of the long range planning committee is a good idea.
I agree with
And
Randy.
I'm not suggesting that happened at all.
No, I know what you were suggesting, which was just don't touch the routes right at the moment. Don't
Well,
make
I
everybody
think
upset.
For a little while.
I just don't feel like we ought to throw things out there that are gonna cause people more anxiety than they already have.
Yeah, I agree.
I hear you.
Okay.
Discussion. Oh, do we have any more possible there's no discussion action items. We have our dates to remember. Yes, are we done talking about school boundaries? I didn't close that, sorry. Any other thing, Bob, on the school boundaries?
Oh, no, not on that.
Okay.
I do have something when you get down to L.
Okay, that's fine. We have our dates to remember. Board member input for future agenda items.
You know, we established that we're gonna meet on twice a month.
Correct.
In the past, we used to hold board meetings around the district, regularly scheduled. In other words, I don't remember the exact month, but just for the sake of example, October we met in Spirit Lake, and in January or February we met in Athol, and later in the spring we met in Garwood. And so the board gets a presence around the district and give folks in those different communities opportunity to come and participate in the board meeting. And I personally like to see that done again. So,
Okay.
just as a suggestion.
Okay. So, can you note that down that Bob would like to talk about traveling board meetings? That's what I'm gonna call Bob. So I know what I'm talking about.
Show.
There we go, the board road show. That's kind of cool. I would also like to talk about just the funding that we receive for the college and career advisors. I would like to bring that back onto the agenda. On that note, I do need a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 742061A, B, and C.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We need a roll call vote.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Vice Chair Grissom?
Yes.
Chair Thompson?
Yes.
Trustee Quimby?
Yes.
Trustee Bain?
Yes.
On that note, we will enter into a 10-minute recess and then begin executive session. All right, so we've come out of executive session. It is 8:39, and I will entertain any motions at this time.
I move to not accept the letter of resignation for personnel 02.05.2025.
Second. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. And on that note, we will go ahead and end the meeting. It is 8:40.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.